Hi, I'm John Gertz. I'm a SETI theorist. Today I want to talk about all the things that we know about ET. Now you may be saying that we don't know anything about ET, and that's not exactly so. Actually, we know two things for sure about ET, and we can suspect a few others with some reason to believe that it may be true. First, what is it that we know for sure about ET? The first thing that we know for sure about ET is that any ET that we would encounter has got to be vastly more advanced than ourselves. Now, by advanced, I mean to say that they are far more technologically competent than we are. Doesn't mean that they play better basketball or they've got better taste in music, but their technology has to be far superior to our own, because we're only in the very first 100 years or so of our ability to send and receive electromagnetic signals. And if we're going to use that as kind of a definitional baseline for technological competence, that means we're in the first 100 years of technology. Given that the universe is 13.8 billion years old, and that the very first planets capable of harboring life date back to roughly 12 billion years ago, and given further that it might have taken roughly 4 billion years for life on those first rocky planets to evolve to evolve technological beings on their surface, well, now brings us to 8 billion years ago. Well, our solar system was only created 4.55 billion years ago. So we're talking about civilizations that were twice as old, or almost twice as old, as our planet. Never mind our technology and human technology. Those civilizations, those first civilizations that were formed like 8 billion years ago, 7 billion years ago, 9 billion years ago, have got an enormous head start on us. Obviously, it's an enormous head start. We can't even imagine where they could have come to by this point in time. So the chances that we would, in all the billions of years available to us, come in contact with another civilization that was also only in its first 100 years of technological competence is close to zero. So that's the first thing that we know. What's the second? The second is that we know that ET is not obvious. And this is a real head scratcher. Given the 8 billion year head start or 9 billion year head start that ET has had on us, why can't we just look up in the sky and see evidence for ET just as clearly as we can see the full moon? That is a head scratcher. And that is what has sometimes been called Fermi's paradox. We'll talk about that in another video, or I prefer the term the Great Silence. There are any number of potential answers to that. Right now, we don't know what the answer is for sure. There are also a few things that we have good reason to suspect about ET. First, on Earth, there are aspects to living beings that have evolved independently of one another multiple times. For example, eyesight. The visible spectrum of our star gives off enormously useful information. When we are able to look at objects and see what light they reflect, it gives us a great deal of information about our surroundings. It's so useful, in fact, that eyes have evolved multiple times. It's been said as many as 40 different times among the branches of life. It's a good bet that ET also is able to sense light given off by its star in its visible spectrum. Flight is another function of life that has evolved separately in birds, bats, insects, pterosaurs, and on. So if they have a thick atmosphere, a reasonably thick atmosphere, there's a good chance that some of them fly. So brains are kind of useful. So I mean, it turned out to be useful for our worm-like ancestors to put all of their sensory nerves at one side of the body, the side in which they move. It's efficient, so it gives them more of an ability to sense their environment in front of them. So from that develop the brains. However, as opposed to that, there are species on Earth that have diffuse sensory organs. Octopuses, for example, have brain-like tentacles that seem to be able to make independent decisions. Trees seem to have a completely different diffuse consciousness, if we can call it consciousness, but the trees seem to be fully aware of their surroundings, but yet obviously there's no brain. So we can surmise that the first aliens that we meet will be artificial, that carbon-based life has evolved into silicon-based life. So what do we know about ET's intentions towards us? Do the aliens seek to save us, aggress against us, to colonize us, to proselytize, to simply barter? Presumably the coin of the realm is knowledge. I can't imagine what else we can give them. Are they here to lay down the law, to warn us off? Well, let's put up on the screen the full body of evidence that we have in support of one possibility or another. Yep, that's it. Nada, nothing. That doesn't mean that SETI theorists like myself haven't speculated long and hard as to whether or not ET is benign or malicious, and there's evidence that could go in either direction. To support the proposition that aliens are benign, like Spielberg's ET, if you will. It's been argued that those civilizations that are aggressive will be short-lived, since they will have self-destructed, leaving only the benign and peaceful civilizations to persist long enough in order to make contact with us. Also, because the oldest civilizations are as old as I've said, it could be that they've laid down the law and that there is a real governing body, a galactic governing body and rules of law that permit the peaceful coexistence of all civilizations. So this is possible as well. On the other side of the coin, the pessimist can argue, well, maybe all this great silence means that ET knows something that we don't, namely that there are some very, very bad and malicious actors out there, and that the universe and the galaxy can be very dangerous and especially for newbies like ourselves. So they rightfully wisely keep their heads down and low and don't shout in the jungle, if you will, leaving them to scoff at idiots like us that allow our electromagnetic footprint to become so obvious. So it could be either way, and frankly, we just don't know. It's as simple as that. And with SETI, we actually seek to understand something about the prevalence and nature of intelligent life in the universe. That's the nature of our observations and our experiment. It makes it the grandest experiment of all science, in my opinion. I'm John Gertz. I hope you've enjoyed this video. You can look at my website, johngertz.com, to see links and find links there to my published peer-reviewed papers. And don't forget my book, Reinventing SETI, will be out soon with Oxford University Press. I hope you pick up a copy. Until next time.